Your research needs to get progressively conservative. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, when you first start a research project, no matter how long it is, let's say it's about 2 to 3 years plus. In the early stages, you have got the opportunity to do the more risky experiments and research. That means you can do a bit of a Hail Mary just to see what will happen. And then as you get progressively further through your research, you need to make sure that you are doubling down on the things that work and you are only doing the things that are likely to work, to the point where in the last year, you are really only tidying up loose ends, finding data points that need to be collected because you know it will work. Now, saying that, you also need to balance it at the beginning with easy wins. There may be some techniques that you need to learn. Do that early on, but make sure that you are setting aside time for the really risky stuff. If there is something that you feel like has a very little chance of working, but if it does, this will be awesome for your research. Do it as early as possible in your research. Now, a PhD is somewhere often between like 3 to 5, 7 years. So in those early years, make sure you are failing a lot. And then every so often, just put in a little easy win just to lift your spirits. There are some sort of like key performance indicators you may need to get through as well. But importantly, if you want to try the risky stuff, do it as soon as possible so you have got time to fail, learn from it, and then the stuff that's working, you move that forward into the next year. Then you do slightly less riskier stuff and you focus on the things that are working. And then in the later stages of your research, you make sure that you are only doing stuff that really, really works. Now, this is importantly for the sort of research where you have a defined timeline. So if you've got a grant that's 3 years, make sure risky stuff goes first with some easy wins dotted in. And then towards the end, you'll feel less stressed because you'll have worked out what doesn't work. You've moved forward the things that does work. And then at the end, you're only tying up loose ends. I've done it multiple times in multiple projects and it really works. So in the early stages, sometimes you feel like you're not ready to do the risky stuff. No, the opposite is true. Do the risky stuff early and then double down on the things that are working to the point where you are certain your last year is going to be full of juicy data that you can report. Text to speech and speech to text. I use them both. First of all, let's talk about speech to text. I absolutely love this when I'm just fed up of writing at my damn computer. It is something that I adopted probably about 2 years ago. I actually use a program called Dragon. But now there are plenty of free options on Google Docs, for example. You can do good speech to text, and it's just a great way of getting that first draft out of your mind. It's something that I found very, very useful. When I'm typing, I get to about 600 words and I'm like, oh, God, I'm absolutely fed up with this. But when I'm speaking aloud, I can actually manage about 2,000 to 3,000 words in like an hour and a half. I'm not saying they're good words, but they're words. So really think about using speech to text if you are not a sort of person that enjoys tippy tapping on your typewriter, on your keyboard. Another thing I absolutely love is text to speech. Text to speech can save you so much time. It can help you kind of like see past your real mistakes. And what I mean about that is when I'm typing and I read it back for a review, I read what I want to read rather than what's actually on the page. But if I'm listening to the words, I can easily pick up what is wrong. So I did this a lot when I was a lecturer. If I had long form content, I would actually use text to speech to listen to the students' work as I was reading along. It actually helped me pick up the true meaning, and reading and listening at the same time is really useful. There's a load of programs. I just use sort of like the Word plugin that you can get and use. It's fantastic. And yeah, text to speech and speech to text. Useful in a range of situations and really does help improve productivity, I have found. There is someone in your library that is very useful, that is completely underutilized. A lot of libraries at universities have academic librarians. That is, Librarians that are there to make your research life easier. Now, I went to the library when I was in my first postdoc, and I was amazed to find that there was a person dedicated to helping me find papers, helping me navigate different kind of journals, getting information in different ways. These people are completely underutilized. Have a look in your library at your university to actually see if they exist. I was amazed at how helpful they were, and building up a good relationship and just reaching out to them early on in your research career can really help you when you just need that little bit of help, that little bit of guidance, that little bit of extra support for finding research stuff in a library. Really useful. Go make contact with them right now. Just say hi. Review papers are fantastic because someone has already done all of the hard work for you. During our research, we tend to only look at review papers early on. We look for review papers when we're doing our literature review, or we want to get like a broad overview of a particular field. Research papers are something you should try to get as much as possible. You should set aside time every month at least for looking for review papers, new review papers that do the hard work of looking at a broad section of a field and bringing them together into one particular kind of paper and document. Now, the thing is that if you cannot find a good review paper in your field, this is your opportunity. It is time for you to produce that paper that you wish existed, that review paper you wished existed. The reason you do that is because it is a fantastic way to boost your citations. Doing a review paper is actually a lot of work. You need to go out, review, read a load of papers, congregate them, or turn them into a useful narrative into different subsections. But look at other review papers that have done the same and get an idea of the sort of structure that you can use in yours. But if it doesn't exist, make it. Making it means your citation rate is going to go up and your academic kind of credentials and kudos is also going to increase as well. So review papers, completely underutilized later on in research, I feel. And if you cannot find the research paper, make it. Your career will thank you. Get feedback on your work as often as possible from as many sources as you feel comfortable with. The important thing about research is that you can end up just being like locked into your desk or into the lab or into your books and into your systems that you forget to engage with your field. So research hack number 5 is to make sure that you set aside time to send your work to people. It doesn't always have to be your supervisor, by the way. It can be other experts in the field. They will happily look over your work and critique you. There is nothing academics love more than giving you a really good, thorough peer review, because they get to express all of their opinions about your work, and it's kind of like therapy for disgruntled academics, taking someone's work apart. That's what you want them to do, is take it apart early and often. Now, throughout your entire research career, if you do this as often as possible, it means you'll be finding those gaps and those errors that other experts in your field will eventually find anyway. You're just short-circuiting and kind of like finding a shortcut to those sorts of comments. So don't wait for perfection. Don't wait for something to be perfect. Just make sure that people are reading your work, whether or not it's a peer-reviewed paper, a poster presentation, an abstract for a conference, chapters of your thesis, a paragraph after your results. If you've done a nice graph, if I do a nice graph, I often do a paragraph underneath it so that I can copy and paste that whole kind of like graph and paragraph into my thesis or into my paper when I produce it. And it just saves a lot of time. Get that paragraph reviewed as well. That is so important into kind of like keeping the momentum up and being really rigorous with little effort. There we have it. There are my favorite 5 research hacks that I think will work in any field. Let me know in the comments what you would add, and there are more ways that you can engage with me. First of all, head over to academiainsider.com. That's my project where I've got my ebooks, the Ultimate Academic Writing Toolkit, as well as the PhD Survival Guide, and you can also check out the Insider Forum there. There's a blog growing. It's a really, hopefully, really valuable resource for you. And secondly, go sign up to my newsletters, completely free. It only costs you your email address and you won't get any spam ever. It's exclusive content that you can only find on that newsletter, so it's completely worth it. You'll get things like how to write the perfect abstract, the daily schedule that I think is perfect, tools that I use, and more. It's exclusive content, so what have you got to lose? It's completely free. I'll see you in the next video.